Hello everybody, this is Marion with MyCraftBasketStudio, and today I'm doing tutorial number 18, how to make file folders in any size with perfect tab. This PDF is going to be available for free to print off, and you can find it at MyCraftBasket.com. Go there, print off this PDF, and then that way if there's notes or something you want to make a notation on while I'm going over the video, you have the PDF right there in front of you. That way everything is all together when you go to look at it later. So we all have went to the office supply store and we found file folders, and you go like, oh, I really like to make that. And so then when you go and make it, it ends up being kind of weird looking. Mine were anyway, and I never could get this part correct. I just was not able to make it. A lot of people just make it straight across, and it doesn't look like a file folder. So I figured out the formula on this. It's actually really easy. It's only 3 measurements, and this is my finished file folder. And as you can see, it looks just like an office supply folder. So that's what we're going to go over today. First thing you're going to need is an envelope punch, or a handheld one. I'll show you how to use this one, since this one does not have a measurement guide, but it's still very easy to do. They originally had this for making envelopes. It has a notch in it. This one's by We Are Memory Keepers. This one, I forgot who makes it. I really actually forgot, but it's available. It came with a scoreboard. So look for that one if you don't have it. So the punch that it has makes a really nice notch for the envelope, and we found out that that makes a really nice edge, looks just like a file folder when we go to punch 1/2 of it. So that's why we're using these. So on the instructions, the first thing you want to do is figure out how long you want your paper to be. Now, a custom one, say you want specifically a 3-inch high folder, and this is going to be without the tab when you measure it. So you want it 3 inches wide, 3 inches tall by 5 inches wide. The instructions on how to do that will be on the very last page. I call it the drama section because when I was figuring out those measurements, I had some drama. And I laugh about it now, but it was kind of funny. Things were just not working out, but I got it fixed. And it's really cool because you can make your own custom one. Maybe you have a junk journal, or maybe you have a specific size that you need. Now you'll be able to generate that specific size. So as I said, the first thing you want to do, if you're just doing one, just random, get any piece of cardstock. And this one happens to measure 6 inches wide. That's how wide my folder is going to be. And it is 8 inches long. So when you go to do it, the first thing you want to do is do the fold, the score. There's 2 different ways you can do it. You can go ahead and fold it in the middle, score it in the middle, and then on the part that's going to be your front part of the folder, as you can see, this is the front, you're going to cut off 1/2 inch. If you want to do it that way, that is the simplest way to do it. Just score it right down the middle, find out where your top is, cut 1/2 inch off. If you want to do it the other way, what you're going to do is, as I said, that's a 1/2 inch. So we're going to score it by taking it and only doing it 1/4 of an inch from center. So I'm going to move this just temporarily. So we know this is 8 inches. Halfway would be 4 inches. So that means 1/4 less is going to be 3 3/4. So I'm going to go ahead and score that. I thought a Halloween one would be fun to make. All right, so I've scored it. You can see it's off center. So when I fold it, now that area right here is 1/2 inch. And that's what we want. So that's the first measurement, to be able to get this drop here. The next thing is we're going to decide how big do you want your tab. You can do any size you want with these measurements. You can do any size and it comes out the size that you wanted. So for example, I wanted a 2-inch tab, and that is exactly what I got, a 2-inch tab. So decide what size you want for your tab. This time I'm going to, just to keep it the same, I'm going to go with 2 inches. It's easy. So because I know I want a 2-inch tab, we have to add 1 inch to that measurement. That tells me how far out to go here. Now, if you only have this type of punch right here, if you only have that, what you're going to do is take your piece of paper and you're just going to measure it manually. So you're going to mark, you're going to go here and put a mark at 3 inches. I don't have a pen handy, but you're going to put a mark right there at 3 inches, and then that's where you're going to put your punch. So just that easy, very adaptable. So I'm going to put, and we're working on the back side first, because that's where the tab is that you'll see when you have your folder. So we're working with that first. So I'm going to open it up, and the first thing I want to do is I want to punch the side to give it that decorative look, just like this. Now, I've seen some people where they do, you know, they go all the way over to this mark here, to the flange. I actually don't like to do that. I like to go halfway. So I just find the halfway mark there, and then I'll punch it. So, and if you're off just a little bit, it's not a big deal. So there's my first punch. Now, as I said, I want a 2-inch tab, so that means I'm going to go over to 3 inches. So right here's where my edge is, and I'm going to press it down. And there we go. Now, if I measure that, lo and behold, oh my gosh, it's 2 inches. Thank goodness that worked. All right, I knew it would, but I had to make a joke about it. Now, this part right here, this has to be trimmed off. So what we're going to do is take a paper trimmer, and I'm going to move this because I know it'll move all around. I'm going to take a paper trimmer, and I always like to do it down here. Some people go way up here. I have to reach. So I'm going to go down here, and I can see a lot better. This is where the cutter rail is, the cutter guide is. That's where your blade goes. I want to be able to get it right there where that notch is. That's where the blade is going to stop. It'll stop having resistance once it gets to that spot, because I want to cut this part off. All right, so we're going to slide it up there, and it stops because there's less resistance, and there's my portion taken off. We'll bring that back because we're going to do the other part in a little bit. Then the other part that I noticed that a lot of people do is they use a corner rounder here on this one. Actually, you don't want to do that because that's not how a file folder is. It's got the same edge here as it does here. So what you want to do is just lift your tab up a little bit so it's out of the way. Make sure the part of your folder is flush against the backstop of your punch. And then you're just going to punch it. And there you go. Your back is finished. So that is the first part of your file folder. Now the next part we're going to do is we're going to work on the front. Now as you can see in a real file folder, it drops. So that's what I call, what I mean when I say the drop. That is this part right here. So we're going to create that now. So the measurement for this is, and I'm going to show you why I was always off before. When you look at this tab, I never realized before the hip of that tab matches up with the valley down here. That's why mine always looked weird. Knowing that, and knowing that this is about 1/2 inch, we're going to subtract 1/2 inch from that. Remember we used 3 inches? We're going to do it at 2.5. So we're going to go in here. This is my front, just to make sure we're all aligned right. We're only going to go to 2.5. And there we go. There's that. And now this part is what we're keeping, so I'm going to go ahead and punch that now. So that's done. All I've got to do is remove this part. This part's going to be the part we're going to take away. And again, bring out my paper trimmer. For this one, so I can have it down here closer to me, I'm just going to flip it over. Same thing, we're going to find where that place is for the blade. We're going to slide it up till it has less resistance right there. And there is my other section cut off. The final thing to make this complete is now to cut this edge. Again, just make sure that that tab is up and over. I'm going to center in that punch. This is up against the header. And voila, there is our file folder. And I'll show you how it matches with this one. So there you can see it looks just like the office supply store folder. Very cute. All right, so that is all explained in here. As I said, the two different methods of how to score it. I used this one where I subtracted 1/4 of an inch from center. I talked about the tab width and how to calculate different tabs. So if you wanted to have a tab that was 1 inch, then you would go over here on your cutter, your punch board, and do 2 inches because it's another inch added to it. And then same thing with when you go to do the drop. If it's 2 inches that you did here, then your drop is going to be at 1.5 inches so that it creates that drop. And I wanted to show you too that you can see that this hip here is lined up with the valley there, just like on a real file folder. Now for the part that I was talking about, folder of any size. If you want to have fun and you like math, this is what you want to do. And I've got it all here pretty easy for you. I kind of tried to figure out the best way to make it easy. It really is easy. This is how I ended up having to figure it all out. That's why I said it was drama for me, but I got it done. And so when you go to do the folder for any size, you first of all want to figure out how wide do you want your folder. That's the easiest measurement. So I wanted it 5 inches, and that's what I cut my paper, was at 5 inches. Then I knew I wanted to have this part here 3 inches. So going by my formula, I ended up calculating it out, and I found out that I needed to have paper that was, I've got to remeasure it because I forgot. I had to have paper that was 6 1/4 inches long. So that is, and then I just followed the same directions as far as where to put the tab and all of that. And then, oops, here's the part here. Then this is actually how I did it here for this exact size to get the 5 by 3 inches tall. So this is the exact measurements. So I did the 3, I knew I wanted it 3 inches. I added 3/8 of an inch because this is how tall the tab is 3/8 of an inch. So we have to add that to the height. Then the front panel is going to be that same height, but we have to subtract out that 1/2 inch. So then we cut off 1/2 inch. We've got 2 7/8. Now, I actually used a ruler because I was messing up on my measurements and going, why is this not working out? So a ruler is really handy. So if you're poor at fractions, and that's okay, we knew that it had to be, let's see, we knew it had to be these 2 and 2. So I knew it had to be 3 3/8. Trying to figure out what way to go here. 3 3/8, but I want to take off a 1/2 inch. So I just counted back. 1, 2, 3, 4/8. That's an inch. That put me right at 2 7/8. So use your ruler if you want to subtract fractions. It makes it a lot easier. That's what this is here. So then that told me, okay, if I add the 3 3/8 plus the 2 7/8, that equals the 6 1/4, which is exactly what this measures out. 6 1/4 right here. All right, and then you punch it the same way. You just have to figure out what size tab you want. This one, I believe I did an inch and a half tab on this one. So that's how big an 1.5 inch tab looks. And you follow the same process. The only thing I didn't do here was just punch this side. Let's see if this punch will do it. And there we go. And as I said again, if you want to use this punch, so say I wanted to do a 2-inch punch or a 2-inch tab, then I would go here. I would punch it at the 3-inch mark. Let's see if I can do that indentation with my thing. I think so. So we're going to take and open that up. So we're going to put this here. This is a piece of paper from a prior video I did on distressed inks. So if you want to see that one, it is on my tutorials as well. That was number 17. So there's how you do that with this one. And so when I measure it, it's 2 inches, just like that. So that's how you use these. So you don't need that fancy punch board if you have this already, or if you, excuse me, if you want to get this. I think it's a little, it does come with a scoring tool, and they do sell them separately. I happen to buy it with a scoring tool. So I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. You can make any file folder, any size tab. It ends up being exactly what you wanted, instead of being off or too big or too small. So thank you so much for stopping by. Again, you can find the tutorial at the PDF, I should say, at MyCraftBasket.com. If you like this video, please like and subscribe and share. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.